How do I find a new job? How can I make a career change? And the biggest question of all, can I really find a career that I love? Hey, my name is Jen Smith, and I believe career success doesn't have to be at the expense of living a radiantly happy and healthy lifestyle. As a former HR leader and recruiter turned career coach, I get what companies are looking for when hiring top talent. What that means for you is an unmatched combination of insider knowledge and the best kept secrets about making heart-based career changes and navigating the ups and downs of job searching in today's world of work. Whether you're a recent graduate navigating the job market for the first time or a seasoned professional ready for a career change, this show is for you. So grab your coffee or your kombucha, pull up a seat, and get ready to be challenged and inspired to move beyond your self-doubt and take the right next steps towards landing a career you love. Because you deserve a long, radiantly happy and healthy career. This is the Flourish Careers Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Flourish Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Smith, and today we're discussing a popular theme in the world of careers, especially when making a heart-based career change. And that theme is confidence. Confidence is a powerful trait that can help us achieve our career intentions. However, many of us struggle with self-doubt and insecurity that prevents us from pursuing what we truly want. But what if I told you that confidence is not something we're born with, but rather a skill and habit we can develop over time? According to Mel Robbins, who you might be familiar with, she's a renowned motivational speaker and author, and she says that confidence is the willingness to try, to take action and push past our fears. So it's not about feeling fearless, but about being willing to take a chance and try something new, even if we're unsure of the outcome. Now, it's also not about being arrogant. So I had this conversation recently with somebody, the difference between arrogance and confidence. Confidence means having faith in yourself to learn and overcome obstacles, where arrogance is thinking that you're so wonderful, nothing can challenge you. So arrogant people typically give up when they're faced with a challenge or adversity, while confident people are going to rise to the challenge with some type of anticipation of success. Now, full disclosure, I am not an expert in this topic at all. It takes me a long time to cultivate confidence, although I know that this is a topic that so many professionals struggle with, so I wanted to shed some light on it. So today we're going to start with a quick story about a beloved career changer and how she cultivated confidence to pursue a path she always dreamed of. Then we're going to jump into why confidence is a challenge for so many of us. And then we'll talk through 6 tried and tested strategies to help you cultivate confidence. So let's dive in with a short story. One of my beloveds that I had the privilege to partner with about a year ago was working in human resources for a well-known airline company. But she had always dreamed of being a writer. So obviously, these are very different paths. And this happens to so many of us. We start down one career path, and before we know it, 5 or 10 years has passed, and we pause and say, oh my gosh, what just happened? This path is not a fit anymore. And that's okay. Frankly, that's why I do the work that I do. So back to the story, despite her love of writing, she never felt confident enough to pursue it as a career. She worried that she wasn't good enough and that nobody's going to be interested in reading her work, which would lead to not making any money and all of the things. So we worked together to craft her heart-based career plan, including preparing a list of things that she wanted to learn in order to help her cultivate some more of that confidence in her writing. This led to her participating in a very comprehensive writing workshop. She hesitated at first, but something about the workshop caught her eye. Specifically, the person leading it was someone she had been following for years and that she really admired. And I remember her telling me that she said she just had this gut feeling about the workshop. And you all know about me and gut feelings. Go with those gut feelings. That is your intuition speaking to you. Follow it. So despite this hesitation and self-doubt, she signed up for the workshop. The first few classes were exceptionally challenging. She felt like she was way outside her comfort zone. She struggled to keep up with the other participants. However, as the class continued, she began to feel better about her writing. And after the workshop ended, she poured her heart and her spirit into writing and starting a blog. And then she started sharing her blog with readers. And I felt so lucky to be one of the first that got to read her work. And it was really well done. Other people started providing feedback on how much they loved her writing and how it resonated with them. So slowly but surely, you can see here she's gaining confidence. She gained enough confidence to start sending her work to online publishers. Now, I'm not going to lie, she definitely faced rejection, but she didn't give up. And eventually, she received an offer from a well-known online publisher where she's contributing content on a regular basis. Now, she's not yet ready to leave her day job, although this side gig is continuing to help her build her confidence and hone her abilities until she's ready. I love this story because it's a real life example of how you can build that confidence muscle and take tiny steps towards doing a career path that you love. So let's talk about why this is so hard. In working with hundreds and hundreds of career changers, and myself included, as I've made multiple career changes throughout my life, I've found that confidence can be difficult for so many because it's unknown. We don't have crystal balls. We can't see into the future and we don't know what's going to happen. So we have to step outside our comfort zone and take risks. It is natural to feel afraid when we're faced with these new challenges or new opportunities. And so many of us worry about making a mistake or fear of failure. But confidence can be impacted by so many different factors, such as our past experiences, social or societal expectations. All of these things can impact us when we're faced with making a change or the lack of confidence to make a change. Similarly, building a strong sense of confidence can be difficult when we've grown up in environments where our self-worth is tied to external factors like achievement, which not for nothing is the modern day school system, and that's what it cultivates. So for many of us, this is inevitable. Furthermore, social media and other forms of media can contribute to feelings of insecurity. It is so easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others who seem to have it all together or who are achieving more than we are. So all of these things can lead to this negative cycle of self-doubt and criticism, and it's corrupting our confidence, and we probably don't even realize it. But despite all of this, it's really important to remember that confidence is a skill and it's a habit that we can develop over time. So let's talk about how we can do this. I want to share a couple different strategies to consider. The first one I want to start with is the comparison trap. This is so hard. So raise your hand if you've ever gotten stuck comparing yourself to someone seemingly farther ahead than you. Or maybe you've compared yourself to where you think you, quote unquote, should be in your career. Ugh, I know it's such a hard place to be. So let me share a little bit of wisdom that has helped me move beyond the comparison trap. And that wisdom is knowing that your ability to recognize certain qualities in others reflects those qualities within yourself. Let me say that again. This little wisdom bite is that knowing your ability to recognize certain qualities in others reflects those qualities within yourself. So instead of judging yourself when you compare, ask what you admire about the other person and what it tells you about your desires. Then you could take it a step further and embrace that and consider sharing it with the people you admire. This connection will help minimize that comparison and allow you to take action towards your true self. So, quick story, when I first thought about becoming a career coach, I had so much of this comparison thing going on. Then I ended up reaching out to someone I admired in the career space, and I shared a compliment about something that they discussed in a podcast that really resonated with me. We ended up partnering together on a ton of projects throughout my first few years as a career coach, and it turned into this beautiful partnership. So if you notice yourself in the comparison trap, I'd love to invite you to notice what you admire about the other person and maybe even let them know. You never know where that might lead. Strategy number 2 is to embrace experimentation. So grab your science lab coat and your goggles and let's go into the science lab to experiment. One of the most significant barriers to confidence is fear of failure. So many of us fear taking risks or trying something new because we're worried about making mistakes or we're not going to meet our goal. So let's say you've always been interested in starting your own business, but you hesitated to take the leap. Instead of letting fear hold you back, maybe you could start small by launching a side hustle or taking a business course, kind of like the story I shared about my beloved who became a writer. Then, if things don't go as planned, you could use that as a learning opportunity to identify what went wrong and what you could do differently next time. I will tell you, when I wanted to start a business, I was terrified, my friends. It took me years to cultivate confidence to take the first step. So finally, I decided to give myself a runway, 1 year. And every year, I give myself another year. And we're going on 4 years now. So remember that mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. And the more we fall, the more we learn. So instead of avoiding failure, we can embrace it as an opportunity to grow, learn from our mistakes. So grab your lab coat and those goggles and turn your fears into an experiment and give yourself permission to try. Strategy number 3 is to practice. Another way to build confidence is to practice stepping outside your comfort zone. It is so easy to get stuck in the routine and do the same things repeatedly. But by pushing ourselves to try new things and to practice those new things helps build confidence in our abilities. So, for example, maybe you're an introvert like me who tends to shy away from relationship building. So maybe you could challenge yourself to strike up a conversation with somebody new. Or if you've always wanted to learn a new hobby, sign up for one class and see how it goes. And then practice. Give yourself permission to practice and see if you can cultivate that new hobby. Even small steps outside our comfort zone and allowing us to build that momentum and practice will help us gain more confidence. Strategy number 4, you've heard me talk about before, but it's worth mentioning again. And that's all about building momentum with tiny action. Confidence is a result of action. Even a tiny step in the right direction is going to help. So setting and achieving these miniature goals can help us build that momentum and trust in ourselves over time. So you could start by identifying the tiny actions that align with your values or your interests and start working towards achieving them. So for example, if you want to write a book, maybe you want to set aside 15 minutes a day and gradually increase your writing time as you gain confidence and build that momentum. You've probably heard me talk about my favorite time management hack, 5 minutes to flourish. So even 5 minutes on a consistent basis is going to help you build that momentum. So those tiny actions will add up. You'll build that momentum and start building your confidence. Strategy number 5 is to challenge your negative self-talk. So many of us have these inner critics that hold us back and undermine our confidence and our abilities. So to challenge these thoughts, we should try to reframe them in a more positive light. So quick example here, recently, one of my beloved community members mentioned a reframe that worked for her that I wanted to share with you. She said, instead of thinking about all the things that could go wrong, she made a list of all the things that could go right. And that flip-flop of thinking helped her take action. So a funny story here, I recently, well, maybe not so recently, I guess over the past year or two, I've gotten into taking watercolor classes. So I go to these watercolor paint classes every once in a while. And a few months ago, I sat at a table with others that were taking this class, and we all started talking. And all of us are nervous about what our painting is going to look like or if we're going to be able to do it. And we're all making these jokes about how silly we feel and how terrible our paintings are going to be. And it was so interesting to me to just kind of notice all of us are self-sabotaging ourselves before we even tried to paint. But we were all willing to try. And guess what? All of our paintings came out beautiful. So instead of thinking, I can't do this, try shifting that negative self-talk to something like, I'm going to give this a shot and see what happens. We can build our confidence and achieve our goals by challenging that negative self-talk and replacing it with more positive thoughts. Strategy number 6 is to give it a go even when you're not ready. So getting stuck in analysis paralysis can happen, and trying to plan for every single thing and for everything to be perfect before we take action causes us to just stay stuck and do nothing. But sometimes the best way to build confidence is to take a leap of faith and try something new, even when we're unsure of the outcome. Again, it's not about being fearless, but it's about being willing to try, even when we know it's not perfect or we're probably going to make a mistake along the way. Remember that confidence is not something we're born with, but it's a skill and a habit we can cultivate over time. So start small and practice building your confidence muscle every day. The dedication plus the persistence is going to equal more self-assurance. Now, I have one more quick story here that I think is pretty relatable. So my niece just turned 16 and she got her driver's license. And I was talking to her about driving. And she told me the story about how she was super nervous at first, but now that she's practiced and she's getting ready to take her driver's test, she feels much more confident. And that story made me think of all of you in my beloved community. Just like learning to drive for the first time, building confidence requires us to step out of our comfort zone and take on new challenges. So at first, driving can be overwhelming and nerve-wracking. There's so many rules that we have to learn and decisions that we have to make. But with practice and experience, we feel more confident behind the wheel. So we learn to trust our abilities and our instincts, making our movements smoother and more intuitive. And over time, we develop a sense of control and mastery over the vehicle, and driving becomes second nature. Similarly, building confidence requires us to take risks and push ourselves beyond our limits. At first, it might feel uncomfortable and it's scary, but with practice and persistence, we can develop that greater self-assurance. Like skilled drivers navigating the open road, we become more confident and in control of our careers with each new challenge. Lastly, of course, celebrate your successes along the way, my friends. Use them as fuel to keep going. So as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this. Confidence is a result of making a commitment to yourself, building the courage to take one step, and getting good at what you're doing one tiny step at a time. So that's a wrap for this week. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please consider providing a rating and a review. It'll help more people like you find me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.